Hi, everyone, and thanks for attending Siller & Cohen's Wealth Unpacked series. I'm Josh Marriott here with Randy Siller, who is co-founding partner of Siller & Cohen. In this video, we're going to cover Roth IRA conversions. This is our second video on Roth IRAs, and to see our first, please visit our website. Randy, can you walk our listeners through the key topics we're going to be covering today?
Hey, Josh, this is a great topic that a lot of our clients have asked us about. Today, we're going to cover first what a Roth IRA conversion is. We'll then talk about who should and shouldn't consider a Roth conversion. And then finally, the rules around converting.
All right, so let's dig in, Randy. What is a Roth conversion?
Well, very simply stated, a Roth IRA conversion involves taking a traditional retirement account, such as a traditional IRA or 401k plan, and moving that money into a Roth IRA. Now, you'll have to pay income tax on the amount converted, but if you meet certain rules, you won't pay any tax when you eventually withdraw the funds.
Got it. And who should consider converting to a Roth IRA?
Well, that's a good question. There are a number of situations where I think somebody should consider converting. The first is if you believe that your investments will grow over time. You'd be trading off paying income taxes early on a smaller value and saving income taxes later on a larger value based on whatever it grows to be. In fact, we're recording this in the fourth quarter of 2022 in the middle of a bear market, and bond portfolios are down as well. So this may be a particularly good time to consider a conversion if you believe that the markets will recover.
Yeah, and so income tax is due on the conversion. Does it matter where the funds come from to pay that income tax?
It really does make a difference. If you want to pay any taxes for a conversion from funds sitting outside of retirement plans, that way you're not paying tax on dollars used to pay the conversion tax.
Got it. And does it matter when you plan on withdrawing the funds from a Roth IRA?
It does. The longer you can let the Roth IRA grow, the better. In fact, it's a terrific strategy if you don't believe you'll ever need the funds and wish to leave them to your heirs.
That's a good point, Randy. Also, Roth IRAs, unlike traditional retirement accounts, don't require required minimum distributions during retirement. So no money is forced out during retirement, leaving more money to grow tax-free along the way. Who else should consider converting, Randy?
That was a good point, Josh. Someone who wants to hedge against rising tax rates. Now, individual tax rates are near historic lows and the federal deficit's rising. Also, the current low-income tax rates are set to expire at the end of 2025. So it might make sense to convert some of your retirement funds in these low tax years. In fact, another point that I think needs to be understood is that it's not an all or nothing. So you can do a partial conversion. In fact, we've discussed with a number of our clients doing partial conversions over a number of years to allow them to manage their tax brackets and avoid paying the taxes on the conversion at the highest federal and state tax brackets. This would allow the conversions to cost less in taxes than if converted all at once.
Yeah, and also if you're in an unusually low income tax year and expect your income to go up, you should run the numbers and maximize your lower tax bracket. So I think we're on number 3, Randy. Do you have a third?
Yeah, if you want to better control your taxes in retirement, you should consider a tax diversification strategy.
Well, Randy, you're a tax guy at heart, so I would expect a few tax strategies from you. How would tax diversifications work?
Josh, I think that's the nicest thing you've said about me regarding taxes, and my tend to focus in that area. But by leaving some retirement dollars in a traditional IRA or 401k plan and only converting some into Roth IRA, you can manage your taxable income in retirement. And that's because, as you mentioned, traditional accounts will generally be subject to required minimum distributions at age 72, while a Roth IRA is not subject to required minimum distributions, so no money is forced out of a Roth IRA.
Can you explain to our listeners why that's helpful?
Sure, there are a couple of reasons. The first, as we've been mentioning, is that you can control your marginal tax brackets and hopefully have more money taxed in lower tax rates by being able to take some from our converted Roth IRA where there's no tax, and then some being forced out of a traditional account. Also, you can control any potential increases in Medicare premiums and higher hurdle rates that exist for certain itemized deductions you may wish to take.
Okay, before we move on, could you think of anyone else that might benefit?
Yeah, there's one more that's often missed, and it's one of my favorites for younger people. And that is if you want to access your retirement funds without paying a 10% penalty and you're under 59 and a half. So let's go through this. When you do a Roth IRA conversion, there are two 5-year rules to be aware of. The first 5-year rule relates to the converted amount, the amount you paid the tax on. If you withdraw the converted funds within 5 years of the conversion, there's a 10% penalty unless you're at least 59 and a half or meet one of the other limited exceptions.
That 10% penalty sounds a bit unfair since you've already paid the tax on the converted amount. Why should you be subject to that penalty?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, Josh. When you first look at it, it does feel kind of unfair, but the reality is that the IRS is concerned that by doing a conversion and then taking the money right back out of a Roth IRA, it would allow someone to take the funds out before they reach age 59 and a half and still avoid the 10% penalty. This is where the planning opportunity comes in, though, because once you've left the money in for 5 years, you can remove as much as the entire balance, even if you're under 59 and a half, and there's no 10% penalty. Let's maybe walk through an example which might help. So let's assume that I have somebody who's 45 years old, and they'd like to access the money from their traditional IRA before they reach age 59 and a half and still not pay the 10% penalty. Well, if they convert that to a Roth and then simply wait 5 years before taking it out, they can take out as much as 100% of the converted principal. They've already paid income tax, there's no tax due. And since they've waited 5 years, there'll be no 10% penalty. So in essence, this 45-year-old would be able to access all their principal at age 50, which is almost a full 10 years younger than the normal waiting period, which is 59 and a half. So it's actually a good planning technique for someone who needs access early.
Yeah, and it's important to remember that if you're already 59 and a half, you don't have to worry about this 5-year rule, and no penalty will apply when you take converted funds out of your Roth IRA. Also, unlike Roth IRA contributions, every conversion has its own 5-year time frame. Randy, in our first video, you discussed the income limitations to make a Roth IRA contributions. We then discussed potential workarounds. Are there any income limitations for doing a Roth conversion?
Now, unlike Roth contribution, there are no income limitations to do a Roth conversion. Basically, anyone can do it.
Got it. I think now's a good time to stop and just recap the 4 candidates that would benefit from considering a Roth conversion. Number 1, someone who believes their investments will grow over time and have a longer time horizon. 2, if you want to hedge against potential rising tax rates. 3, if you want to better control your taxes in retirement. And 4, if you want access to your retirement funds without paying a 10% penalty and you're under 59 and a half. Did I miss anything, Randy?
No, I think that's it. I think you caught them all, Josh.
Okay. With that said, who shouldn't consider converting?
Well, it's almost the opposite of what we've spoken about. So first of all, someone who doesn't have enough funds in non-retirement assets that are available to pay the upfront tax on conversion, because it's very important that you, again, use non-retirement funds. You don't want to pay a tax on funds used to pay a tax. Secondly, I would say someone who believes that they may be in a, or are likely to be in a lower tax bracket in retirement. Third, I would think of someone who has an unusually large amount of income in the year they're considering converting, which may throw them into a higher income tax bracket in the year of conversion. Probably doesn't make sense. Also, someone who's not confident that their investments will grow. And finally, someone who doesn't have at least 5 years before they'll need to start pulling out converted funds. Those are the folks who probably shouldn't consider this technique.
Got it. And you mentioned earlier 2 5-year rules. And you covered one. Can you cover the other?
Sure. The second 5-year rule we discussed in our initial Roth IRA video. This relates to earnings and growth on the converted funds. So we've converted the money and now it's growing and earning. To avoid income tax on distributions of earnings and growth from a Roth IRA, you need to meet 2 rules. The first is the distribution must be made at least 5 years after the conversion. And the second rule is the Roth IRA owner must be at least 59 and a half when they pull the money out or meet one of the other limited exceptions.
Got it. And how do you determine whether funds distributed from a Roth IRA are from the converted amount or from earnings and growth?
That's a really good question, Josh. So the good news is the IRS has ordering rules. They tell you when you take money out, what order they are considered to come out from.
Okay.
And the better news is that they happen to be favorable for the taxpayer. So first, after-tax contributions are considered to come out first. And as we discussed on our first Roth video, that's good news because those contributions may be withdrawn at any time, income and penalty tax-free, regardless of age or how long it's been sitting there. So that's really good news. Secondly, converted principal, conversions like we've talked about today, is considered to come out next. As we've discussed, those funds have already been subject to income tax. So the only issue is whether they're going to be subject to a 10% penalty tax. Again, if you meet the 5-year rule or are age 59 and a half or older, or meet one of the other exceptions, the penalties simply won't apply. And then finally, the last piece to come out are the earnings and growth. And that's good news because you need to meet 2 requirements to have earnings and growth come out tax and penalty free. The funds must have been in the Roth IRA for at least 5 years, and the owner must be 59 and a half unless one of the other exceptions apply.
Yeah, it's nice that there is something set up in a favorable way for the taxpayer. At this point, I think it'd be good to summarize what we covered. So just to recap again, those that should be considering a Roth IRA include someone who believes their investments will grow over time and have a longer time horizon, someone who wants to hedge against rising rising tax rates.
Everybody's talking about rising interest rates today.
I know. And those that want to better control their taxes in retirement. So those are kind of the top 3. On the shouldn't side, someone who doesn't have enough in non-retirement funds, someone who feels that they will be in a lower tax bracket in retirement, someone with an unusually large amount of income in the year they're considering the conversion, someone who's not confident their investments will grow, and finally, someone who doesn't have at least 5 years before they'll need to start pulling the converted funds. With that, I want to thank everyone for listening to Siller and Cohen's Wealth Unpacked series. Please feel free to visit our website for more of our insights. Also, you can contact me or Randy directly with questions and/or topic suggestions. We'd love to hear your feedback. Thank you.